Ready? We'll call this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Audience of citizens. I'm going to have my good friend Lana Salisbury here. Just get up and say a few things about the NDDH. Go ahead, Lana.
Okay, so I'm here as a citizen, but also as Sterling's representative to the Northeast District Department of Health. I want to let you know that if you need anything from the health department, you can contact me, or you can call down there. But specifically tonight, I wanted to call your attention to the fact that Sterling is in receipt of some money, which is kind of the trickle down money from the litigation settlement concerning the opioid crisis in the country. That money came from the drug companies and from the drug stores, and it was distributed by the federal government to the states, and in Connecticut, it was then distributed to the towns. So we are in receipt of some money. However, because it's partially based on census, none of the small towns really can use that money to do what is mandated to do with the money, which is to have a program for prevention or treatment of opiate addiction. Okay, only the big cities got enough money to really run a program like that. So some of the health departments, most notably Torrington, who has 11 towns, one less than what we have in the Northeast District, have banded together and asked the health department to come up with that program. It can only be spent for this purpose, and it has not been determined if the town does not spend the money, what's going to happen to the money, whether it's going to go back to the state or whatever. So I just want to invite you to, pay attention to communications that you may get from Luigi, our health director, about that program and the invitation that he is extending to all 12 of our towns to allow the health department to use that money, pool the money from the 12 towns, and create that program so that we will meet the mandates of that award that we have been given. So you can call him, you can call me, I can put you in touch with him, but probably calling him is best on that because he knows the particulars of it. And I know you have to go through some kind of process to transfer the money or whatever you have to do, but I just wanted to call your attention to that program.
Great, thank you, Lana. You guys can read that sometime.
Yes.
Okay. Approval. Oh yeah, audience. Anybody else have anything to say?
One question.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you changed the rules or not, but if we have any questions on anything on the agenda, do we have to do it now?
Yeah, not except for when Brian Fitzgerald gets up from Husky Solar, then you can ask him questions then. Okay.
All right. So I have a question on the Walker land investment thing.
Oh, I'll talk about that. So, did you see that?
Yeah, it's a scam.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
right. We got
So
that.
why is it on the agenda then?
Because the agenda was made before we didn't erase it or anything. It was too late to take it off the agenda before we put it on. You know what I mean?
All right, so that's gone.
Huh?
That's gone.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, ready? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 21st, 26th regular meeting? I make a motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Correspondence, letter informing the town of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence is July 4th, 2026, and requesting to provide the municipality's contact to ensure Sterling gets all updates going forward. I need a motion to appoint Ashley to get the information.
Has she agreed?
Go ahead, you make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes carried.
Question,
Motion carried, there you go.
Jack, if I could ask a question on that, is there anything that the town is gonna do that may require fireworks or anything like that? So like if we are notified,
Oh, I don't think so.
okay, that's just all. Thank you.
Okay, Walker Land Investment LLC, letter expressing interest in purchasing 3.36 acre lot located at 10 Main Street, Revere site, for a total of $18,290.58. We did a research on this company and we found out it's fake, it's spam. The second one was Walker Land Investment LLC, expressing interest in purchasing 7.68 acres located in the industrial park, which I actually think is a retention pond, for a total of $23,769.73. That also we found out is fake and scam. Eversource, letter informing the town that Eversource Vegetation Management Team have regular tree maintenance scheduled to begin in February. I acknowledge this, and I am also going for training to become the new tree warden. Yeah, fun.
Good.
Another hat.
Yeah, another hat. Southeastern Regional Actional Council, letter requesting the allegation of $1,100 in the town's budget to help support prevention programming related to substance abuse, mental health, gambling, and suicide. What we've done with this is we forward this to the treasurer to put in our budget. Who's that? Unfinished business. Discussion regarding the new cameras, Wi-Fi, heavy-duty, locking, electric covers for the gazebo. All those items have come in, and as soon as the snow goes away, we'll put that up. Discussion regarding the 72-inch culvert pipes. Those culvert pipes were just recently put on the government auction list.
Could I ask a question about that?
Sure.
What were these purchased for in the first place?
A road up on, I believe it was it Newport?
I don't know, could have been. I thought it was
No.
Water Pond.
I thought it was Plainville. I'll find out that if you want. They were for one road and we decided to line them instead. Lincoln found another procedure that was cheaper. And so we got stuck with the pipes.
They were for Snake Meadow Hill.
Snake Meadow.
Okay,
Right. it doesn't-
We got it.
we were all wrong.
4 chances, but we got it. Well, see, now you threw me off. Okay, discussion regarding new street takeover, the new street takeover law. The attorney had sent me some paperwork and it wasn't quite enough information for us. I found out, the only thing I found out, that I am the chief of police here in town, that have no power whatsoever. And the state police are the only ones that can take the bikes or four-wheelers or anything like that. So, but we're still working on that. Let me see, Water Resource Development Act. We actually missed a deadline on this, and Sarah's looking into possible grants, and I have Patty, my colleague here, she's also looking into it. Did you find out any information?
Not yet,
Okay.
no, but these grants would help us to get the 2 ponds cleaned up.
Yep.
So that they're not dying with all the vegetation.
That'll be a different grant altogether.
Oh, it would?
Yeah.
This one, isn't that the same one right here? Dredging?
Yeah, you're supposed to be looking into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm right now looking into that.
Okay.
No, I want this really badly, so I think we need to take care of our 2 ponds.
Okay. Sterling Pond Dam, inspection. I talked to town engineering on this, and, it takes 3 inspections. One when the snow's on the ground, like right now he's doing one. He does it in the spring, and he does it when the leaves come off. So that's all in progress.
You have to be there when he does the.
Nope.
You don't have to be there.
Okay, can I ask a question about that?
Wait till we know.
Yeah,
No?
no.
Okay.
Let me see, this is actually, I haven't seen you at a meeting, but these meetings are actually just for, it's a selectmen's meeting,
Okay.
and you guys just listen.
I'll send you an
We
email.
don't have to give you a chance either at the beginning, but I do.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn Cooper, he's not here, right? Nope. Okay, can I have a motion to Lincoln Cooper Red, White, and Blue celebration for the 250th anniversary of America? Link's, in charge of this. Can I have a motion to table this?
I'll make a motion.
Yes, and I'll second it, because Link did give us a rather detailed
The last time.
presentation last time,
Yeah.
and we need him back again to do that. So yes, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion regarding overview of water filtration plant, application fundraising process. Judy, do you want to say anything, or do you want me to?
There's no updates on that.
There's no
since
updates,
the
okay.
last meeting.
We'll make a motion to table that till next week.
Could I ask a question first?
Sure.
This is so expensive in the millions and millions of dollars that unless we can get a grant that pays for it all, I don't think we should go ahead with it. But that's just my,
Yeah, this is down the road a little bit.
yeah,
We'll
right,
discuss this.
millions of dollars,
Yeah.
really. And very complicated, as Judy told us last time.
Yep.
Very complicated.
Well, for me, it's complicated, but you hire the right people and it's something they do
Yeah.
all the time.
Yes.
So anywhere from 2.5 million to, that was our low bid, to $5 million.
You know what that would do with the mill rate?
Wouldn't be all at one time. You
Yeah,
can finance it. If you, what I had given you was the financing, if it was 2.5 million, it would be less than $500,000 per year increase in taxes.
can we have a motion to table that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, new business, I asked, Brian Fitzgerald from Husky Solar to come in and give a short presentation. We can ask a few questions. I'm gonna limit it because he'll be back a few times, I'm sure. So Brian, you wanna come on?
Yes, thank you.
No problem, bro.
And I talked to Corey earlier, I think the presentation is on here, so I can.
Oh, is that, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he said it's right on the desktop. Boy. Here we go. Yeah, let's see. Okay, it's not letting me present. There we go. Slideshow. Okay. I think we're all set. I have paper copies too. Do you all have a paper copy?
Maybe, but maybe some of them don't.
Yeah, everything that I've got here is right on the screen here too. Is this okay if I'm
You're good.
here? Okay, perfect. So thank you for your time this evening. As first, like I said, my name is Brian Fitzgerald. I'm with the company called Verigy. We're West Hartford, Connecticut based. We are builders and developers of energy projects in Connecticut and across the country. We are developing the Husky Solar project across Plainfield and Sterling. So we'll just do a quick overview on the project profile and we'll just kind of keep moving through the presentation here. So Husky Solar is a 50 megawatt solar electric generating project located across about 200 acres in Plainfield and Sterling, Connecticut. So about, of the 200 acres, about 80 or so is in Sterling and about 120 or so are in Plainfield. And if I'm saying, you know, about or on or about, it's because our drawings are still being finalized as we speak. We haven't submitted a formal application to the siting council, so we're still putting the final touches on everything. So about 20 megawatts in Sterling, about 30 megawatts in Plainfield. So to give you an idea of where this is, when you're driving up Route 14, Sterling Road, about 166, about the 166 to 185 range of Sterling Road, we'll have an access road there and then an access road into a parcel just north of 166, which is an existing gravel pit that will be restored and host some of the solar project. And we'll look at a site plan here in a couple slides, but just to try to give you an idea of where we are. And then in Plainfield, it's Sterling Hill Road at 318 Sterling Hill Road. And then there's a large swath of land again that we'll look at here in just a few minutes. But so Husky Solar requires a certificate of environmental compatibility and public need from the Connecticut Siting Council. So that's the zoning application, that's the zoning approval that we need. We also need a construction stormwater general permit from Connecticut. If we're able to successfully acquire both of those permits, then we can come back to the town and pull a building and electrical permit for code compliance. So that's how we kind of come full circle. So Husky Solar currently has an interconnection approval from ISO New England and Eversource Energy and a signed interconnection agreement with those two entities. So all that means is that if we're permitted to build a project, we're already approved to deliver that amount of energy into the grid where we plan to deliver it. So Husky Solar was selected in a competitive RFP administered by Connecticut Heat in 2025. It was called the Expedited Zero Carbon RFP. That simply means the project will sell all of its electricity to the electric distribution companies in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and the state of Maine. So there's a number of utility companies that the project will sell power to. It's a traditional structure that Connecticut Heat has procured power under for years now. Projects like this would sell power under those agreements to utility companies over a 20-year period. So what this all means for Sterling, when you think about okay, power's going to utility companies, Sterling will be a recipient of tax revenue, new municipal tax revenues and upfront building permit fees. So right now, based on our estimates of system size, if we're able to move forward as is, we would be paying about just over $250,000 a year to Sterling in the form of property taxes. $200,000 of that comes from personal property, which is mandated through state law, Public Act 25-173. The additional 50 or so some odd thousand is the increase in real estate taxes that our leasehold on those properties would produce. So the bulk of that revenue comes to the form of personal property, and the other part comes to real estate taxes. So in addition to the annual tax revenue, the project again has to pay those upfront permitting fees, which are quite substantial for a project like this. Right now, we're estimating about $350,000 upfront before we start construction for that permit fee. So that between the taxes and the permit fees, that's the real economic contributions. Okay, quick update on where we are, how we got here, and what's next is what we'll get into in the schedule. So we've taken some time over the past couple of years to do a whole lot of environmental due diligence on the property. The total leasehold that the project has is approaching 500 acres, but only 200 of that 500 acres is actually usable after you factor out delineated wetlands, environmental surveys, natural diversity database consultation. Obviously, everything is not buildable, which is how we got back to where we are.
Could you slow down a little bit?
Yes, for sure.
We're not in a rush.
Okay. Yeah. So after we complete those environmental surveys, we get to a point where you say, okay, we think we can take the project forward under this situation and get a permit. So what we do then is introduce the project to the municipal leadership. That occurred in November of 2025, where we had initial meetings with Plainfield and Sterling. And we said, hey, we're working on this project. We're gonna submit a formal siting council application at some point over the next few months. Then in December, we delivered a full draft of that application. Then we had follow-up communications, typical phone, email, meetings, just checking in, making sure the information was received and we have everything. Then we introduced the project to community members through mailings, letters, and a project website in mid-December. The project secured the RFP award from Plan 15 in December. Then moving into January, we hosted a public meeting at the Plainfield Town Hall, excuse me, which was attended by residents of both Plainfield and Sterling. We had additional follow-up communications and updates to municipal leadership, and then communications held with the legislative delegations of Plainfield and Sterling. So this is all part of the siting council pre-application process. So in order for us to submit an application to the siting council, we have to notice a lot of people. The list is very long, local officials, local leadership, and then state level elected officials as well, which is what we've been working on for the last couple months. A part of that process is also the public outreach campaign that we do on our own project website that we put up, and the communications we have with neighbors to the project, and discuss things like views, distances to the project, where it is, what are they going to be experiencing. We also talk about landscape plans, our plan for additional trees along Sterling Road in Sterling, Sterling Hill Road in Plainfield, etc. Just kind of work throughout that entire process. Moving into February, we have a presentation tonight with the Sterling Board of Selectmen. Then next Monday, we present to the town of Plainfield, and then we anticipate an application to the siting council by the end of next week. And what that starts is the actual permitting process. So that siting council process is typically 6+ months of evaluation, review, public hearings, interrogatories, questions, you name it. And it's a very rigorous process, one we've been through a couple dozen times here in the state for other projects. But as soon as our application is submitted to the siting council and they accept it and they say it's complete and it's a legitimate application, the siting council will produce a schedule. They'll produce the time at which a public hearing will be held, which is all ran by the siting council. We don't have any say in that. They say it's this day, it's this time, show up or don't show up. There's an evidentiary session during the day where it's back and forth questions from the siting council and their staff. And then there's a public portion at night where residents of Plainfield or Sterling would be able to speak and say anything they like about the project. And I think about a 2, 3, or 4 minute window. So this is just the lead up to that process that we have to get into. And that process that the siting council runs is very public. It's managed, it's organized quite well by the siting council. They have a web page where they take every document that's ever been submitted. The schedule's there, all the information is there. Everything's managed on the siting council website. It's readily available to everybody. They do a good job at managing that docket. So that's what we're getting into. Okay, so we'll take a look at the site plan here, and I'll just try and orient. So Plainfield on the left, Sterling on the right. This magenta line here is the town line. Sterling Road here in Sterling, and then Sterling Hill Road here in Plainfield. So looking at this plan, what you have in the blue are proposed solar modules. What you have in the green are delineated wetlands, which is currently forested and would remain as is. Effectively saying, we're not touching it. We actually have setbacks from it. We're not going into those areas. So those are the areas that were carved off from development availability. Now, looking at this, a couple of quick points off the bat. Those are not the actual colors of the panels. They're actually darker colors on the chalkboard. They're very dark, almost black, but very dark blue. We have to kind of put that color on the plan so that it's visible on this actual sheet. Now, the other interesting part about this design is we have Sterling Road here, and then some neighboring properties here to the south. And then the existing gravel pit is at a grade that's well below Sterling Road. So views in are not possible. You wouldn't be able to see anything looking in there from that right away or the neighboring property. So we've got landscape plans under development on Sterling Road for that frontage there. But when you look at the plan, what you see is a small amount of panels that are actually close to a right of way or close to neighboring properties, for example. And this helps the project show like a much smaller project than it actually is. Because when you look at it, yep, it looks big, it looks expansive. But in that area of real estate, the overwhelming majority of it is very secluded. There is a great distance from the majority of the residents in the area and the public rights of way. So it's not going to show like the size of the project that it is. And the other benefit there is the town will get to realize the full benefit of the tax revenue from a larger project, but not have this expansive view of solar panels all throughout the landscape.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, am I allowed to ask a question even though I'm okay. So on here it says old railroad grade, so is that the bike trail?
Yes.
So will you be able to see the solar panels from the bike trail if you're hiking?
So that's a good question. Right now, most likely not. And again, we're developing those final grades. The only reason it sounds like I'm hesitant is because we are doing the final grading plan for that area. And I've been out there a number of times, and if you're standing on the trail, you can't see very far into that property, right?
Okay.
If you're ever walking on that trail behind that property, when you look in, you don't see very far.
Okay.
So the goal is to keep that as is. The connection that's made, so there is an underground transmission line in that rail bed. That's why we go back there and connect there. The connection that's made to that will be underground. So the key is to keep as much of that as is in order to keep the view as is. But say, for example, if you go there today or tomorrow and walk that trail, you look in, you don't see very far. So you'd be seeing something very similar to what you see today.
So who owns the land?
So the land is owned by a number of different people. A family in both Plainfield and Sterling, and then individuals in Sterling.
So you're leasing it.
We have a lease agreement with those landowners,
Okay.
yes.
So it's those landowners who are gonna be paying these taxes.
The project pays the taxes.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, so in the lease agreement, any increase in real estate taxes or any real estate taxes, once the lease is active, become the responsibility of the project.
The project, okay.
So it's only, and sorry to cut you off, it's only a, change in like adding the project to the land would create the ability to reevaluate the land, for example, which creates the higher taxes.
Okay. What is the duration of your leasehold?
So the lease is a 20-year lease. And it's a 20-year contract to sell electricity back to the utility companies. So we just have those two contracts match up.
And what happens at the end of 20 years?
So at the end of 20 years, it does get decommissioned and removed.
And removed?
Part of the siting council process and the certificate is that prior to us starting construction and assuming an approval, we have to furnish a decommissioning or removal bond and give it to the siting council before we can start anything, like a requirement before building. So it's not just take our word for it.
Mhm.
We do have to furnish a decommissioning bond, have that bond in place throughout the duration of the array. And as I mentioned previously, the permit we get would be a certificate of environmental compatibility. If we successfully get that permit, the teeth there is that if the project falls out of compliance, the siting council can come and pull that certificate. And that's like a big, big problem.
Yeah.
That's enough incentive to make sure a surety bond stays in place, taxes get paid, upkeep is managed, because you wouldn't jeopardize. It's like, you're not gonna not mow your lawn for risk of losing your house. It's just something that you're gonna do as a normal course of business.
Can I ask you a question? How did you pick this location for these?
Yeah, great question. So that's a big part of all this, and what it comes down to is the majority of the land you see, actually all of the land you see in between Sterling Hill Road and Sterling Road is owned by the same family. So it's quite unique to have that much acreage owned under common ownership in one location. Now, the land north of Route 14 is the key because that's where the connection is made to the underground transmission line that sits in the rail bed. That underground transmission line was installed, I believe, in the late 80s to facilitate a connection from the old tire burning plant to transmission line over in Plainfield. So that's why it exists. And ever since that tire burning plant closed down, there's been no power flowing through it. But it's there today, and it's owned by Eversource, and it can be connected to. So that's where that parcel comes into play. But again, so we have interconnection viability, which is again that line, and then the ability to try and develop something like this across certain acreage, which is what would lead you to this group of parcels here.
I was, after I talked to you today, Brian, I was told too, most of the land on the Plainfield side is all fields. Is that true?
So about 80 acres in total is hayfields. So the majority of that sits in Plainfield with just, it's hard to tell because the overlay. This part down here is a field, but these are fields currently. Yes.
So how much, it's not that you're going to take down 202 acres of standing trees.
Correct, that's right.
So some of it, that little part on the bottom left is fields,
Yes.
but the majority of that blue are trees.
So from like this here and that here, correct, yes, trees. And that area of land has been like select cut and select timbered over the years through a forestry practice, right? Now, the family that owns the land there, they're an agricultural family. They go back to the 40s and 50s. They've worked the land since then. And what I think is happening and what leads people down the path to lease this amount of land for something like this is that when you look at the numbers and what cutting 80 acres of hay can net you versus your total property tax expense, it's hard to cover even the taxes with that amount of hay. And that would lead someone to say, okay, well, what else can I do with this if it's not housing, if it's not some other type of large scale development, right? Now, the other interesting thing is you'd say, okay, if the soil in that northern area was really, really good soil, then a farmer might say, could be worth my while to take those trees down and create hayfields or cornfields or something else. And that hasn't been the case because what we've learned from those landowners, I should say, is that the majority of the land there in the center mass is what they call sour. So it's gravelly, stony, not suitable to grow agriculture is how they've characterized it. So in order for them to do so, they would have to manipulate the soil and, lime and fertilizer and bring in organics and things like that. Just a situation that doesn't seem feasible given the current state of what they could get if they transitioned it, to hayfield, for example.
So if they take down those trees though, what's going to hold the soil in place? Wouldn't the soil, since it's not good, wouldn't that cause a runoff?
No, so what in that rolls into the compliance and our permit with the Connecticut Deep Construction Stormwater General Permit. So what we have to do when we would take those trees down is to get that growth established. And you can do that through different seed mixtures, right? So
what do you mean get the growth established?
So get it, effectively turn it into pasture land type of habitat, right? With like a meadow mix.
But I guess I don't understand, because if that's what it's going to look like, there's nothing in there.
No, so that park project right there, that was a golf driving range. That was a.
That's not ours?
No. That's a separate project located in Enfield.
That's deceiving.
That's why we couldn't figure out where the curve.
I know.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
for that.
yeah, no, I'm sorry, that's not the site.
I know this now.
No.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. I should have mentioned that.
So between these, solar panels is going to be brush and trees?
No, grassland,
Grassland.
yes, like a grassland.
Do you have an estimate of how much land will be deforested? And are you planning any sort of tree replacement
So we
to make up for the?
right now, it's about 80 acres of pasture, and then it'd be about 110 to 115 acres of tree removal. But it's not, like I said, and we have the forestry reports, it'll all be part of the full application that anybody can see. So it's not tall, old growth, as they call it, very, very mature trees, because it was just select cut, I think about 10 years ago or so. So what we look at is how that new habitat, that grassland habitat, how that acts in relation to forest land, right? Because everyone says, okay, trees sequester carbon, you take trees down, they don't sequester carbon.
Right.
Grassland habitat also sequesters carbon and stores that carbon in the soil. So that's the analysis you look at. Now, I'm not taking a position one way or another, but that's just how you look at it. So, okay, how's the grassland gonna do as compared to, taking these trees down, the existing tree cover today?
So your siting application will actually include all of that?
Yes, it'll include reports from the foresters, and that calculation.
Okay.
So you want grass to grow between them?
We do.
Oh, yeah.
What about brush? Are you ever gonna put Agent Orange kind of stuff in there?
No, we can't.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Thank you. We need
But if the soil is soured, how is the grass gonna grow?
So and if you looked at it today, you'd say, okay, there's stuff growing there, but is it nutritious enough to grow, like an agricultural product, like a food grade hay product, corn product, or something to that effect, right? So you manage that grassland habitat, that grows there.
Go back cannabis, would you?
I bet it would,
Yeah.
not anything.
Just started throwing that out there.
How many, you talked about metric tons of carbon dioxide and all this, in your paper. Did they also figure out how many metric tons of carbon dioxide do the fully grown trees already eliminate?
So that is a part of the calculation that's in the full application that
Okay.
discusses what this habitat estimate, what the estimate of this does currently versus what this will do.
And I would assume that DEEP is looking out for that, because that's my concern too. You take down all these trees, not only do we want to capture the carbon, but we want to produce the oxygen. So,
And to that point, DEEP is involved in these processes, not only from the stormwater construction general permit, but typically like within a month of filing any application, or sooner than that. We file an application, someone from DEEP will say, hey, we have analysts who want to go out and walk the property. Can you coordinate access with landowners? We say, yep, sure, here's the landowner, here's when you can go. And they go out there and they'll spend hours walking through the property. They'll formulate a report. They'll provide photos and their analysis of it. And they won't necessarily take a position on it, but they'll say, here's what we found.
Right.
Right, and from that, you can interpret whatever you want to interpret. So DEEP has a siting analyst that goes out there and analyzes that very early on once we submit the application.
When we have a snowstorm like this, who is responsible for clearing off the panels?
So we don't clear off the panels
They just stay there and they don't conduct electricity.
until the snow sheds off.
Right.
Correct.
So it could be weeks, like it is now.
In some cases, yeah, in a very dire situation, yeah. So what that means is that it would produce less energy in that exact situation.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't affect, it does not affect the tax revenue, it does not affect lease revenue. Those contracts are not on the
and
face.
snow tends to slide off those things fairly quickly.
They haven't out here.
No,
It depends.
As far as I know.
yeah, well, we've had this extraordinary bout of cold too.
And it depends on the angle, so you can tell. Some of these are what you call single axis trackers. So in a snowstorm, they go up to a perpendicular load, they still. So that means snow doesn't stand on them at all. Then the next day comes along and they reorient it. It's just based on the daily algorithm. Fixed tilt at about a 30-degree tilt Yeah, you'll see, it'll shed off to the bottom and maybe it sits on the bottom until the space opens up underneath for it to shed all the way off. But some of them, the single axis trackers, they do go perpendicular and then no snowfalls and then it goes right back the next day.
Another question. So I'm understanding, well, from your packet first, what I saw on the back were all these big high power lines. And evidently you're saying that that's not the case here in Sterling, it's gonna be underground,
In Sterling, it is, yes.
and in Plainfield too, no?
So in Plainfield, this, let's look at this. So there's no utility poles that get added anywhere. It goes underground and then it connects to the old railroad bed there. That's where it connects.
Okay.
So that underground line, daylights comes out of the ground about 5.5, 6 miles to the west in Plainfield. So it's over by Black Hill Road. If you're going west before you get to Exley, there's a big transmission corridor there. Believe it or not, there's a road called Sugarbrook Road. It comes out of the ground there and connects to the overhead transmission line. If you were to drive by it, it's all public roads, you would see what you call like a small switching station. It was what they built in the 80s or the 90s, and the breakers are open, so there's no power flowing. But you won't see the actual wires coming underground. You see it go to like a breaker system, then there's lines.
Don't be like that?
Not like that specifically, no.
Because those are high power lines.
Correct, but so we're tapping into the existing high power lines
Okay,
that are already there. We're not building any new ones.
okay. And what if they get broken by or vandalized by unparented hoodlums? We cannot keep our trail clean or unvandalized as it is, because we do not have a police force.
Yep.
We need one, of course, but it's expensive. Who is going to monitor that they don't get broken? And
Yeah,
who
so-
pays for it when it does get broken?
When it does, that's the project's responsibility.
It is.
So we have safety and security fences around every bit of array, simply as code compliant. So there's no way to get around that.
Chain link.
Typically chain link, 7 foot is electric code. We've been installing agricultural style box fences in some locations. But chain link is what probably work in the area there by the track.
Chain link fence would keep out teenagers?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, barbed wire.
That,
Oh,
high
wow.
voltage.
yeah, we haven't installed barbed wire, but I mean, we can't stop someone from committing a crime. If they do it, we have to react to it. We would install security cameras probably in that area, just because it is secluded. They'd only be viewed at private property, obviously. So if someone were to walk on to that private property, they would be in camera view, but it wouldn't be focused on the trail, for example.
Okay, and you said that your company takes care of any breakage.
Correct, yeah. Yep.
And did you say that the financial benefit to the taxpayers would be $250,000 a year? Is that what you said?
Correct, yeah, that's what we're looking at right
And
here.
then what about the permit fees? Those do not get paid to the town, they get paid to the council?
So we would pay a permit fee to the town upon applying for and receiving building electrical funds. Those two numbers that are estimated right there. So 252,400, again, estimated number just based on current metrics of the project. And then 300, that would be on an annual basis, excuse me. So 2.5 million every 10 years, 5 million over the 20-year term in pure tax revenue alone. And then the upfront payment of 350,000 for the building permit to the town of Sterling.
And you mentioned in here something about employment for local residents. But it's not going to be really much employment for local residents that they don't know and aren't trained to put these up, right?
Yeah, so great point. Really, in these projects, we don't, we're not, it's an unmanned facility. right? So we're not gonna say we're gonna create 10 full-time jobs, that's not the case. The big economic driver here, excuse me, is the construction jobs. And what that looks like is about 150 to 200 Connecticut-based jobs. Where they come from immediately, we'll do our best to work with, we could like work with labor unions in this area, for example, do our best to pull from the locality. But where the rubber meets the road on the job side is electricians, apprentices, laborers, and equipment operators earning prevailing wage. And that's a federal requirement on this project. We have to pay prevailing wage. We don't have to sign like a project labor agreement, for example, but we do have to pay prevailing wage, and we're estimating about 13 million in wages to be paid during construction alone.
Which means prevailing wage and the fringe benefits that go along with that. We're signatory to IBEW 99, and we do a lot. Our company doesn't do solar projects, but the local does a lot of solar work.
Yeah, and the compliance on that right now is very tough. We work with outside law firms and accounting firms and third-party entities who are just focused on compliance to ensure we meet that compliance because it's a federal requirement.
Federal certified payroll reports.
Yeah, we have to do it. We have to do it on this project.
And local tree men or not?
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Typically on projects like this, the site work is done by local contractors. That's a big part of what we do. Sometimes we even have agreements built in with landowners if they perform that kind of work, right? If they're in the earth moving business, if they're in the tree removal business, they've got right of first refusal to get that work. But typically we pull from within the community, yes.
Everybody good?
I have one last question. There are tremendous benefits obviously to the community. What's the drawback?
The
Is there any?
drawback, so we were discussing earlier with the tree removal, right? That's a hot topic.
Yeah.
But, as we look around and we look at the other development types, right? You could build buildings and take down trees that don't offset anything, and then have a draw on local resources. The other point with these projects is we're not pulling water out of the ground here. We don't use water, we don't use fuel, so we don't create any wastewater, right? Stormwater is managed appropriately for the stormwater permits, but we're not a draw on local resources, which is common of other development types, right? It's hard to compare us to a 1 million square foot building. Yes, technically we're taking more acreage, but it's hard to compare a project like this that's no more than 9 feet off the ground with an 80-foot tall building that you're gonna see from a mile away and that'll be lit up at night, right? So I think there's pros and cons to everything. It just it boils down to what is this driving from an economic perspective? And is there gonna be a draw in our town? I think this could be a real strong taxpayer for the town without adding any kids in school, without drawing on any of those traditional resources.
So I was asking, there doesn't seem to be any burden. Everything else would have created some kind of burden.
Correct, and that's the real benefit of these projects.
Thank you, Brian.
One more question.
You want to let him finish his presentation first?
Oh, should I?
Yeah.
So this is the last one, project schedule, right? So we kind of touched on what got us to this point today. What's in front of us immediately is about a 6-month permit review period. So if we can get our application submitted to the council in February, we have, so the siting council typically has 180 days as statutory requirement to issue a decision. Sometimes it goes a little longer, sometimes it goes a little shorter. So if you think of 180 days, 6 months, August, we'd be looking at a decision from the siting council, which would trigger the next steps, whether it's an approval or a denial. In that permit review period are the things I mentioned earlier, the schedule that they produce, the public hearing, all of that is very public and noticed often and very available. It's a very public process that they run. And from there, if the project were to be approved, we would look to start construction by the end of this year. Depending on how the winter goes, you have to see. Right now, it's tough to build anything outside. But think about construction really ramping up in 2027 and not quite taking all of 2028 but we're just kind of trying to build in some time there for testing and commissioning, trying to get done by, the end of December 2028. But say, for example, if we do start construction in August, that's when we start paying the increase in real estate taxes. And the personal property would kick in once the array is actually turned on, sometime in 2028.
No.
Go ahead.
Do we get any benefit in Sterling? Two questions, I'll say them both at the same time, so. Do we get any benefit in Sterling from the electric, manufacturer itself, so that our electric bills would go down?
The answer to that is
No,
no ambiguity there.
okay, and do these panels make a low-grade buzzing?
The panels, no. The
What makes the
inverters,
buzzing?
the inverters do make noise. So what we do with the inverters is locate them at a distance that is greater than that sound travels. So say, for example, right now the radius is like 175, 180 feet from where you can hear that equipment. And we site all of that equipment greater than 200, 250 feet from any property line, any public right of way. So for example, if you're inside the array of the fence, you might be able to hear it at one location or another, but if you're outside of it or on a different property, you won't be able to.
What about the one on the, north side of Route 14?
Mhm.
It's down in the pit,
Yeah.
so to speak. And, wouldn't that have its own little noisemaker down there?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and that is at a distance greater than that 250 feet from that trail and from Route 14 and from the neighboring
The
properties.
houses on Route 14 too?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Why only 20 years? I mean, after 20 years, you break everything down and you go away?
So there are options to extend. Whether or not those are entered into is another question.
Okay,
But
so if you don't, who is that up to? I mean, who makes that decision? Is it you, is it the town, is it the state?
it's the project and the landowner that make that decision.
Project and landowner.
I'd just like to say that I know the property across on 14 there, you know, it's wooded, but it's been heavily cut off. And I'd rather see solar going in instead of the 85, houses in there. And that they're just gonna, there's not a lot of trees that are really nice to look at anyhow.
Yeah.
So they're gonna probably end up cutting them anyhow,
So
like that, so.
it's a good point. That came up, it was more relevant in a meeting we had in Plainfield, where I think we were able to see, based on the zoning, I think as it stands today, you could put something on the order of 50 or 60 homes just on the Plainfield side of that property, right? So that's what's possible. Again, not a threat by any means, but that's what's possible. About 20 years ago, the landowners there did do a small, like 9-home subdivision on the southern end. So they have experience doing that, but I think their goal is obviously to not put houses all over that land and try to keep it on that land for the duration. So,
Right, everyone along with that.
oh, I'm not saying you went along with that.
Okay.
Obviously, no.
He likes to build.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you
If there's any questions, no, I appreciate that. My contact information is on this presentation. We've got the website. I field all of our calls.
I'm sure we'll see you again, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get out of here.
Let me make sure I don't leave that. Okay,
Brian, we won't be insulted if you want to take off.
thank you.
No
I
problem.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll take care. All right, we'll move on. Okay, consider an act on funds required to repair water damage in the old Story Hour Road. What happened on this was, just this last storm, we had a water dam and, it backed up and it went into the Story Hour Road and wrecked the ceiling, insulation, a whole bunch of other stuff. And, let me finish here. Required to repair water damage in the old Story Hour Road for the installation of the drop suspended ceiling. So the ceiling up above, the new one that's gonna go in is what, became destroyed. Removal and replacement of the electrical fixtures also. I need a motion to approve, this and, send it to the, Board of Finance for $7,500, is required to repair the water damage, to the room and the suspended ceiling.
I have a question before we make the motion.
Sure.
Shouldn't we have a clearer breakdown of just what is the materials and what's the labor and what is the taxes, rather than just a blank?
I do have that in my, somewhere in my office. That's it.
Well, that's not a breakdown, though. It's just the total,
Yeah, total price.
but we don't know, how much is labor, we don't know how much is for materials. Taxes, it's just.
I can get it for you if you want it. Absolutely. Probably have to have before we go to the finance board. This is such a rush job because we just had the water damage done, you know what I mean? So that's all that is.
So suggesting we approve it because
We approve it and then it goes to the finance board for them to approve it.
and they'll have the clearer
Yeah.
picture of what's going on.
Sure.
Okay, all right, then I.
We just wanted to get it into this meeting as quick as possible, so we could fix the damage.
Yeah, okay, then I make that motion that we.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Favor carries. Discussion regarding proposed ordinances. Judy.
Two of these have to do with taxes. So right now, we have an ordinance that allows us to withhold a building permit on any properties where there are delinquent taxes, real estate taxes. So the laws allow us to also withhold building permits if there are delinquent sewer use. And because the town owns the water system, delinquent water use taxes. So that's one of the things that we're working on, so that it would be changed to allow us to require collection of those before we would issue a building permit on a property that has any delinquent sewer and water in addition to or taxes.
Seems reasonable.
The other thing is, we would also build in a provision that, in the event that there's a severe hardship, even if somebody does have delinquent water, sewer, and real estate taxes, that the Board of Selectmen could approve a waiver, mostly for health and safety. They need a new roof, they have flooding, their furnace isn't working, anything like that, where they might need a building permit, even though they have delinquent taxes.
That seems
So
reasonable.
those are the two that we're working on
Yeah.
that. Another one is on the sewer authority, is simply making a statement. Currently, the revenue collector, which is me, collects any payments for sewer use. So we just need to build that into the ordinance, that it's clearly stated that the town authorizes the revenue collector / tax collector to collect sewer use and connection fees. The last ordinance that I've been working on is currently, if you're a paid employee of the town, you cannot serve on certain boards. Board of Finance, which I wouldn't recommend any paid employee being on because there is a conflict of interest there. Planning and zoning, zoning board of appeals, inland wetlands are other ones that paid municipal employees who live in the town who would otherwise be eligible to be on the boards cannot be on those boards unless we write a ordinance that states that those individuals or people holding certain positions can also serve on those specific boards unless it's a conflict of interest. So for example, if our building official lived in Sterling, he could not serve on inland wetlands, zoning board of appeals, or planning and zoning because of undue influence. The tax assessor, because he works on, or that person would be working on assessments. zoning enforcement officer, and the board of selectmen. You can't regulate what you work for. So, but because we're a small community and it's hard to find people to be on some of those boards, we think it might be beneficial to allow paid municipal employees where it's not a conflict of their job to serve on those boards. They're unpaid positions. And to make the process be, right now, if you want to be on a board, you do an application to the Board of Selectmen. They present it to, but they don't make a decision on it generally. They present it to the commission or the committee or the board. They review it. They make a recommendation back to the Board of Selectmen to approve or deny. And then it's actually the Board of Selectmen that make the final decision. So the recommendation would be that there'd be another step where before an employee actually does fill out the application to be on a board, it would be discussed by the Board of Selectmen to make sure that there aren't any conflicts. And then the other 2 steps. So that's
Reasonable.
out there for that.
Thanks, Judy. I need a motion to approve the bills.
That motion.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Can you guys read all the treasurer's report?
I'm not gonna have.
No, you have that. Okay. Any other business come before, Board of Selectmen?
One, is there an ordinance in place regarding unregistered vehicles allowed, number of unregistered vehicles allowed on a property, particularly Port Pond Road, I'm thinking of?
No, I don't think so.
There's no ordinance
No
there?
ordinance.
So we have no jurisdiction that there's 50 cars or
No.
cars or anything there? Because why? It's private property?
No, we just don't have a blight ordinance
No.
at all.
No, what?
We tried a few years ago, but it was shut down.
Okay. And. Probably, but it can wait. Oh, yes, one more thing. Could we please put our list of meetings one time and their times in the Turnpike flyer so that people can see that we're having a Board of Selectmen meeting on a certain night at a certain time, or certain morning at a certain time. And the Board of Finance meets on a certain time, because once you know where the time, what the times are, they could take that little piece out of the Turnpike flyer, put it on the refrigerator, and then if they're wanting to come to a zoning board, they would have that. So I'm just recommending again that we put that in the Turnpike flyer, just
What do
once.
you think, Mark? One-time shot?
Yes.
Yeah, so I make that motion. Can I make that motion?
I don't think we have to have a
Does it need
motion.
a motion?
No. We'll,
Does we agree?
yeah, as long as we all agree, we'll bring it up to, we'll tell Ashley tomorrow and,
Do you,
set up. Huh?
do you agree to?
Yeah.
Okay.
One-time shot.
Okay, yeah.
There's Turnpike fire.
We need people to come and make a reason.
We could try.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It is. Yeah. Talking about